Okay, so let's jump right in. Something pretty unusual is happening. We're seeing Donald Trump, a leader who is, famous for his whole maximum pressure thing, suddenly talking about negotiating with rivals like China and Iran. The first question that pops into your head is probably, why now? But honestly, that's not the real question we should be asking. See, the real question isn't about some sudden change of heart. It's about a fundamental change in the world around him. His basic instincts? They probably haven't changed a bit. But his calculation of what those instincts require him to do? Well, that seems to have shifted, and shifted dramatically. And this right here really lays out the puzzle for us. We've gone from a strategy that was all about relentless pressure, tariffs, sanctions, constant threats, to this sudden shift in tone, this new openness to actually making a deal. To really get what's going on, we have to understand the logic of his worldview. To solve this whole thing, we've got to try and see the world through a single lens, the same one Trump seems to apply to pretty much all international relations. So, forget about traditional ideologies, forget about complex diplomacy. For him, it all comes down to just one thing.
Leverage. That's it. That's the key. Who has it? Who needs it more? And who's just bluffing? Every single decision is basically a calculation based on this one simple concept. If you can get your head around that, you can start to understand what's really happening here.
And look, this quote just says it all, right? It's not about left versus right or democracy versus autocracy. To understand this pivot to negotiation, you have to stop thinking like a politician and start thinking purely in terms of who's got the power in the room. The whole theory behind maximum pressure was actually pretty simple. Just apply so much economic pain that your rivals have no choice but to come to the table and accept your terms. But then, well, that theory ran headfirst into reality. The world didn't just bend to the pressure. It started pushing back, and in ways the strategy really hadn't planned for.
This scorecard really shows you the gap between the plan and what actually happened. China didn't fold. It started looking for other markets and hit back with its own tariffs. Iran didn't back down. It actually ramped up its nuclear program. And here's the kicker. The pressure wasn't just being felt by them. It started creating real economic pain right here at home.
So what do you do when your main strategy just stalls out? Well, you don't give up on the goal, you just find a new way to get there. For a deal maker, turning to negotiation isn't a sign of weakness. It's a smart, strategic pivot when your first move has basically become a trap. It's all about finding the off-ramp.
So this is the new playbook in action. Step 1, apply all the pressure you can. Step 2, they don't fold, and now you're stuck in a stalemate. Step 3, you create an off-ramp by opening the door to talks. And of course, step 4, you make sure to frame whatever deal comes out of it as a huge victory. Because for a deal maker, the story you tell is just as important as what's actually in the deal.
And this brings up a huge, crucial difference. On one side, you have the ticking clock of election cycles and the need for a quick political win. On the other side, you have strategic patience. Leaders like Xi Jinping in China, they aren't worried about the next election. They can afford to absorb the pressure and just wait. They can play the long game, knowing that urgency on the other side might eventually force a better deal for them.
And that right there brings us to the real heart of this entire story. This pivot to negotiation isn't just some tactical maneuver. It's a reaction to a much, much deeper shift in the global balance of power. The world we live in today is just fundamentally different than it was. For decades, American leverage was built on these incredible pillars. They were real, they were powerful, and they gave the US an influence that was pretty much unmatched. But here's the thing about structural advantages. They aren't forever. They can erode, slowly at first, and then all of a sudden, much, much faster. You can literally see that shift right here. The old unipolar world, where one country's power just dwarfed everyone else's, that's gone. We're now living in a genuinely multipolar world, where other powers have built up their own strength, their own resilience, and created their own alternatives. And that new reality changes the playbook for everybody.
Just take the US dollar. For decades, it's been the bedrock of American financial power. But now, rivals are quietly and consistently building alternatives. As they create new ways to trade without using the dollar, a major tool of US leverage, financial sanctions, it starts to lose some of its bite.
And you see the exact same pattern in technology. The whole campaign to cut off China's access to advanced computer chips didn't actually cripple them. What it did was force them to pour an insane amount of money and resources into building their own homegrown industry, which just proved how resilient they could be.
And this is a point that I think gets missed a lot. The maximum pressure strategy hasn't just created tension with rivals, it's also strained relationships with our traditional allies.
And when your partners start talking about strategic autonomy and wanting more independence, the very network that makes US power so effective starts to get a little bit weaker.
So let's pull all these threads together. This move toward negotiation, it's not really about one leader's personal choice. It's about having to adapt to a whole new global game that has a completely different set of rules.
And if there's one central takeaway from all this, it's this. The old playbook of just applying pressure from one side assumes a level of dominance that just isn't absolute anymore. In a world where other countries have built up their ability to resist and have other options, that strategy has real hard limits.
This really is the heart of it all. We're not just watching one man make decisions, we are watching the visible symptoms of a massive, structural shift in global power that's happening right under our feet. These negotiations are just one small part of a transformation that's going to be playing out for decades to come.
Which leaves us with a final, big question to think about. Maybe in this new, messy, more complicated world, real strength isn't just about how much pressure you can apply. Maybe true power, the ultimate sign of strength, is actually knowing when it's time to pivot, when it's time to engage, and when it's time to make a deal. What do you think?